All right, good morning. This is The Pulse, brought to you by Cayman Mall Road. We received word just a short time ago that a body of a male was found in Georgetown behind Phillips Electrical. So we are here on location right now. The police have just put up the crime scene tape. It is our understanding that the individual has been deceased for some time. This is right next to a little park area down in Scranton. We have several police officers on scene. The detective has just arrived on location as well. And it is our understanding, through our usual Mall Road sources, that the individual was actually found in a lawn chair, and he may have been deceased for a few days. And so, essentially, no one noticed that he was in the lounge chair and that he was deceased until this morning, and the authorities were subsequently called. At this point, we don't have a cause of death. We do have a street name for him, which we won't say at this time, so that the authorities can have sufficient time to notify any next of kin. But of course, you guys know how this works. This is Cayman Mall Road, so we get information pretty quickly. We don't always divulge it, but I don't know if he lived exactly in this area or if he was just kind of hanging out, because this is actually what was part of a park. I don't know how much is still in use, but you can see the playground is right here, and this looks like it used to be a basketball court at some time. Not in the best condition at the moment, but there is a little shed back there as well. So we're uncertain if he lived in that little shed or if he was just kind of lounging in a lounge chair and actually passed away while he was in the lounge chair. But our sources indicate that apparently he was already starting to succumb to the weather in terms of his actual body. Was not in the best condition. So I'm sure the police will now be carrying out their relevant investigations. This could be very much just a matter of, somebody lie down and just died. Unfortunately, it happens. People have heart attacks and so on. So at this early stage, it's impossible to say if there's any foul play suspected or involved. And of course, the police will carry out their necessary investigations to hopefully come to that conclusion. We did speak with some persons in the neighborhood earlier, and they had mentioned that, they had heard that essentially a body was found. So again, this is Central Town. I believe this area is Scranton, right behind Phillips Electrical. The street, to the best of my knowledge, is Francis Street. But we're on location here. So far we have a police car that has at least 2 or 3 police officers on location, and a police detective has recently arrived. And then upon our arrival, we shortly thereafter saw them putting up the crime scene tape to cordon off the area. So there you have it. Detective and several officers in the back there. So hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this quickly in terms of what transpired. So again, if you're just tuning into the live stream, we were notified this morning of a deceased male having been found. We do know he's a Rasta man. And essentially, he was found deceased on a lounge chair, and he had been there at least for a couple days, since Monday, or perhaps even from Sunday sometime. And he was just discovered this morning. So the authorities have just arrived on scene, and they have begun carrying out their investigation. And it's right next to what used to be a park. I don't know, like I said, who maintains this park, but it looks like it's in need of some dire painting and a few little accessories. But he was actually found in this location this morning. So officers appear to be assessing the scene at this time to see what is going on. We have several officers over to the right behind that little shed over there. They seem to be talking to someone on the other side of the fence, perhaps gaining some intelligence. And we have a detective. Sorry, guys. We have a detective that is unseen as well. And that's his silver car that the officer has just walked over to. So, we don't yet have any ambulance on the scene, so it's possible. I'm not sure, actually, if the body has yet been recovered and taken away. But literally, as we got here, the police just started putting up the tape to secure the scene. So right next to One Capitol Place, adjacent to their parking lot, those of you who are familiar with Georgetown, that's where Deloitte and Touche is located. I believe they're still in that building. And yeah, right next to their parking lot. So a lot of people in that building would see precisely what's going on here. And of course, some of the neighbors over on that side are starting to gather and come out of their yards now to see what's going on. I wonder if we might be able to speak to one of them, if they're willing, to tell us if maybe this gentleman actually lived in this little hut, or he lived in this area, or what it is that they're hearing. So I'm sure that this neighborhood is in shock this morning. And I guess they're all trying to do their local neighborhood watch in terms of ascertaining what actually transpired and what happened. You know how these things work, folks. Normally the Mall Road has it correct and the police solve their cases based on assistance from the Mall Road. So, we shall see if that's the case this morning or not. Morning. We're going to try to see if someone is willing to chat with us, but I see this lady's going back in her house. And we see the detective now. He's actually heading over to some of the neighbors to maybe inquire with them as to what happened. Okay, so this looks like crimes of scene persons have showed up. This is like a little mini version of NCI, folks. You're getting it live and real this morning. Putting on his gloves. Scenes of crime. Thank you, Edwin. I think I said crimes of scene. Thanks, Edwin, for the correction. Scenes of crime. Pam, this is in Georgetown Central, in an area called Scranton, right behind where Deloitte & Touche One Capitol Place building is. That's the parking lot that you see adjacent behind this van. And again, you know, detectives are here on the scene, beginning to process the scene this morning. So what we have so far, for those of you who were tuning in, is that a deceased male has been found. We at McKeeman Mall Road, like I said, do have some details on the male's identity, at least his street name, if you will, his nickname. But we're not going to release that information at this time because obviously it's pretty early on and next of kin may not have yet been notified. So our first indication was that he was actually found in a lounge chair. That was the initial word that came out. So we've had no confirmation of that quite as yet. But that's what we understand, is he was found in some sort of a lounge chair. Now we see police appear to be going through that fence into another section over there. And there's Detective. We've just heard, based on what was called out, his name is Detective Reed. And there's a little footpath right there. And so, let's just have a look and see. Oh, there's another little house over in that section over there that the police have now gone to, that little greenhouse area. So it's possible that that's the precise location that's in question. So it's literally right adjacent to, in the back of One Capitol Place's parking lot, because this is their parking lot that we see here. So as indicated, we have detectives that are on the scene already this morning. Morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Hi.
How are you?
Not bad, darling. Yes, I
Show
just
you an ID?
I just heard that.
You want me to show you an ID?
No, I just heard him call you Reed, so I figured you wouldn't lie to me about that, sir. Good morning. Not too bad. We're just doing a little live report here. Obviously, we heard that a male's body was found in a lounge chair, so we're not interfering with you. Yes, sir.
Do you know the deceased?
Unfortunately, I have a name, a street name, but I don't personally know him. Oh, okay. Not that I'm aware of, but I'm the type of shenanigan that don't know all my relatives, so. So hopefully not. Yeah. Well, I didn't want to say yet, just in case next of kin hadn't been notified. But I can write it down. This is what I heard. Not too sure about the spelling, but okay. All right, dear. So that's Detective Reed. once again inquiring if the deceased is related to me. I mean, I don't know. I hope not. My goodness. But, we cover the news regardless of that. And we're obviously recording live, so we could not verbally say the name because we're waiting on information. But I did write it on his notepad. And he confirmed that that was also the name that he heard. So I'll tell you what, folks, this is The Pulse, which we're catching live news for you as it happens. It's a new segment here on Cayman Mall Road, getting the pulse of the community in real time. But the truth of the matter is, by the time we get the news, I mean, I do admit that we get it rather quickly, but we're normally spot on. Our sources are, as the street says, if it don't go, sow it close to sow. So in other words, it's not far off. And that's just how it works. And we appreciate everyone who provides us with information so that we can be in a position to bring you guys breaking news as and when it happens. So that you're kept in the loop in terms of what's going on. So, multiple officers on the scene this morning, and crimes of scene have also showed up. It appears that the body is still probably very much here in crimes of scene. It looks like they will now be getting a little bit closer to the scene of the incident. He's got his camera now. And it looks like they will be actually taking his van in, and maybe the police car will now be moving out of the way. So a lot of you have been requesting additional coverage, in particular when it comes to video coverage, because apparently you missed Cayman 27. I just see Miss Marjorie just tuned in. And, we're going to be having a news segment called The Pulse, and this is one of the live streams that we are bringing to you. Edwin, time to invest in a new autofocus camera CMR. You should be able to stay a mile away and zoom in. Well, nobody wants to be a mile away, Edwin, because then you don't hear what's going on. So as you can figure out, we just heard some pertinent information. The detective was able to speak with us, so we don't want to be a mile away. We want to be right on the scene so that we can bring it to you as close and personal as possible. And we actually do have a nice DSLR camera that has a zoom lens on it, but again, being a mile away isn't particularly helpful in situations like this because you don't get what's actually happening if you're a mile away. So thanks for that suggestion, but we do continue to make some improvements in terms of our video equipment, and we do have that big professional camera that we have available to us. But to be honest, normally when these things happen, you don't have the camera on you, kind of thing, and it's just so much easier. You can't live stream with that camera either. You can't do a live stream with a DSLR. So, an iPhone, which is what we're using now for this, is the perfect thing to live stream from because people get to see it live, and people want to see it live, and people want to interact. So again, it seems like the focus of this area at this moment seems to be that kind of little house or shed that's in the back there to the right. And if you're just tuning in, we have been made to understand that a man has been found deceased in the neighborhood. And I don't want to say his street name even because I doubt next of kin have yet been notified. And the detective is making his rounds and talking to people in the neighborhood, including a house that's fairly close by. And I'm sure if you live in this area and you know anything about it, any assistance to the police would be extremely helpful. Morning. Do you live in this area?
No,
Oh, okay.
just I'm walking to bed.
Okay. Would you like to say anything, like what you've heard was going on this morning?
No, I don't. I'm away from Boston. I don't know nothing.
Oh, okay. So you're just a curious onlooker
Yeah.
in terms of what's happening. All right. No problem. Yeah, basically they found a body this morning, so
A lady?
no, a gentleman. One Rasta guy that probably lived in this area. And they're just checking it out and doing their processing of the scene.
Well, you sick, are they?
Hmm?
You sick?
I don't know. It sounds like it might have been kind of sudden.
Alright, bye-bye.
All right, there. All right, so that was just a curious onlooker. Just having a wander around the neighborhood and his morning beer and cigarette as he curiously wanted to know what was going on. And of course, you know, sorry, that's how this works. People are curious. Edwin, leave our camera alone. I mean, the quality looks pretty good on this end. I don't know how you guys are seeing it, but normally what happens, guys, is if the quality is poor, it is a direct result of the internet connection. And it really has nothing to do with the camera at all, because the camera quality, even on my end, is excellent. It's just, morning. It's just the transmission across the internet that is the issue. He's still there? The guy is still there?
He's still there?
I believe so. Yeah. I heard he's been there for a couple days, it looks like.
The whole, laid down.
So we're just talking to some of the neighbors. We won't put them on camera because not everybody likes to be on camera, right? But maybe we can get a little bit more insight into what's going on. Oh man, Albert, you know Rasta? Oh, maybe I've crossed the... I'll be careful that I don't cross over into the actual crime scene area. So, Valdine, thanks for confirmation that it's clear. Raymond says sometimes it blurs. Sherry, it's right in town on the side of Phillips Electrical, right off of Shedden Road, behind Deloitte. The area is also called One Capital Place, that building right there. Morning, sir. How are you? Sorry? Not yet, I don't think. He's still back there. Did you know the deceased? You knew him? He's your friend? You know him? Oh, wow. Do you know if he was sick or anything unusual? Okay. He's a Rasta man. Yeah, like you. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that this morning. Life. Yeah, I think they're going to be on their way soon, actually. Yeah, I guess I don't know if it's the hearse or exactly who comes, but our sources said he was found in a lounge chair. So there is a lounge chair next to his little house. That's where he lived.
Yeah.
Okay.
The part.
Just back there, it looks like. Yeah, Kim, we actually know his name, you know. We do know his name, but we don't want to say it as yet because at this early stage, we're pretty sure that next of kin have not been notified. Where is sir? Johnny? Your name is Johnny? Do you know where he was from? He's from Cayman or? Yeah. Okay. So everyone wants to be helpful, I guess, as much as possible. So maybe Johnny's giving some information, or maybe he's interrogating the detective himself to get some additional information. All right, folks. So I think for now, this is as much as we can bring you in terms of information. It's still pretty early in the incident, so we don't know a whole lot, but we will certainly keep you updated here on Cayman Mall Road. You've been watching another segment of The Pulse. Prudence, we've not confirmed where he's from exactly, but we will get all of that information and put that in a news story. So we see the detective Reed doing his detective work here, which of course this is part of it, you know, talking to people in the neighborhood who may know a little bit more about this gentleman. Looks like Johnny is trying to be helpful. And Johnny's greeting everyone.
One shot. One in. One shot. One in.
Yeah, very helpful. You're right, Kim. He's trying to be helpful. So hopefully, I think more or less they know at least the unofficial identity of the individual. So that's a little scenes of crime. Is that what it is? I don't watch enough NCI, obviously. Scenes of crime. Van. And they have started their processing of the scene. So, detective on the scene, putting on his gloves, getting ready to go in there. All right, folks. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this morning. As we hear more, we will put up the story on the website, of course, and provide you with any details and any information that we can. But again, what we do know this morning is a guy, we'll just call him Rastaman for now, has been found deceased, and the word on the Mall Road is that he was actually found in a in a lounge chair, deceased, and he had been deceased at least for a couple days. And that's the information that we have at this particular time. We do have the arrival of someone else that pulled in here with some degree of authority based on how they pulled up to the crime scene. So, don't know who this is, but let's see. Perhaps this is another detective that's going to help them sort this all out. Okay. He's on the phone. Morning, how are you? Who's this man that just arrived? He obviously knows me, but I have no clue who he is. Who is he, Johnny?
Borden Funeral Home, I just told you that.
Oh, that's Borden Funeral Home. Johnny, have a little patience, man. Have a little patience. John, it seems irate this morning. Maybe he hasn't had his coffee yet. All right, so the funeral home is here to collect the body. You see, this is an eye-opener for me because I would have thought that okay, I guess. I mean, I don't know how this works. Do they just call any funeral home to come and pick them up, or is there a particular funeral home that works exclusively with government, or is it based on who's available, or I don't even know how any of that works. Do you guys know? Yeah, boy, I don't want Johnny cursing me out, yeah.
Boys in for the front one. Okay. That's me. Okay. And take them on. You can't go in there.
No.
You get up and then you see him. You see him?
Yeah. Alright then. Thank you then.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Up and down. I see him. They're gonna pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rod too. You see him?
No, I have my sources. I have my sources. Yes, sir. That means that people calls me and say, this is going on right now, get down there. You know? Yeah, man. That's your uncle? Morning, how are you? His name is Jimmy? Your mother's brother's sister. Okay. Okay. This is the hearse now. All right, folks. Well, we might as well hang on for this, I guess. This is the... Sorry, I've got a little bit of a cold today. But I guess this is the process now of how this works. And they're going to let him through, obviously. So this is the hearse now who is here to collect the body. I'm assuming if it was more of a crime scene in terms of like foul play suspected, that it would probably be a bit more processing of the scene. So I don't know. Maybe it's just natural causes from the initial looks of things.
Let's try me ID. Exit. Should have started ID. I'm going to take our exit.
Okay. Thank you, Edwin, for your comment. Good to see that you're appreciating the live stream this morning, despite the fact that you think we should be using a Samsung. CMR doesn't have any money to purchase any more cameras, so our little inky-dinky iPhone will have to do just fine. What is this? We're at least several models behind, right? iPhone 8. So it's not the latest and it's not the greatest, but guess what?
Cut it off.
It's what we've got. And then over to the side here now, some neighbors are starting to gather. I'm sure they're all curious as to what's going on. Yes.
It's crime squad.
So looks like you know, they do their formalities, I guess, before they allow the funeral home to access the body. All right, honey, take care. So Johnny's doing his own investigation, boy, and he wants to know what's going on. He's like, are they going to pick him up? What are they doing? So I see a few more of you are joining into the live stream. So if you're just catching up, what we know so far is a guy that we're going to call Rastaman for now. We do have a name, but we don't want to say that until next of kin have perhaps been notified. Has been found deceased. Our sources indicate lying in a lounge chair. And apparently he has been in that lounge chair for at least a couple of days, and the body had already started to succumb to the conditions, the humid heat conditions of this climate. So I'm sure that was not a nice situation at all. And so he was discovered first thing this morning. We got word of this. So part of our news segment here on Cayman Mall Road, The Pulse, trying to keep you guys informed as it's happening. So we're taking the pulse of the island. We came down here to give you some first-hand reporting of the situation. We see Detective Reed is on the scene. We have seen at least, I think it's 4 uniformed officers, 1 scene of crime. I got to get that right. I've really got to get that term right. Scene of crime officer as well, or he's been processing the scene. That's him in black. Took his camera and some other forensic stuff in with him earlier. Now he's making some notations on his notepad. The hearse has just arrived a few minutes ago. We understand that the hearse is from Baden Funeral Home, and they are, I guess, waiting on the police to provide them with instructions on taking the body away. So yeah, Gene, this is very sad. I mean, chances are it's, someone that just died.
Yeah, yeah.
Sadly, something we all have to do, right? But again, we're bringing you guys this scene live at the moment. And we did hear from Johnny, our neighborhood detective, who indicated that he knows the Rasta man. And no indication of what precisely may have happened, but
Yes, ma'am. Okay. 5345 517 1611. Yeah. 1611.
oh gosh, sorry guys, I've got this cold that's like killing me here.
But my push, she's supposed to have all her kids to be about. Right, so she can get it. But she beside her. What we looking for? What we looking for?
Oh, I can tell you what, it's so hot out here already this morning. I can only imagine if that body was sitting out for any length of time in this heat. My God. Whew. It is sweltering. Very hot. So we see the hearse getting a little bit closer to this scene. Maybe he's going to back in. He's being directed by the officer who's all the way in the back right at that house to get as close as possible. Police are standing over here to the left, allowing the funeral home worker to do his job. So, it's not often that you find someone just lounging, deceased. So, people are curious. We do have some curious onlookers behind us, neighbors and people who've actually come into the neighborhood to see what's going on. A whole crowd has gathered. And, yeah, Christy, it is sad indeed. Right here in central town, a lot of people forget we're surrounded by all these tall, multi-million-dollar buildings, and they're conducting all sorts of transactions, and literally right on the outskirts of their door, we have people living in these communities. It is what it is, and it's what people have. And they're doing the best that they can, but people, this is their community. So when something happens, of course, everyone is curious as to what's going on and concerned and wanting to know that there was no foul play involved, I think, is kind of the most important thing.
put the phone na kasi na mura ba? Nangyari siya o yan o. Nangyari. Hindi na ako listo. Oo, yun. Sure, nangyari. Dito, gusto ko magpaan. Hindi.
All right, folks, I think we're going to go ahead and end the live stream now. And we'll update you, so please stay tuned to CMR's social media platforms as well as their website. And we will certainly update you all as soon as we hear more in terms of what's going on. So thanks again for tuning in to The Pulse with CMR.